welcome back to Kill the Computer. As always, I have my prediction future sightseer co-host Caleb. How are you doing? How do you feel? You predicted literally 24 hours ago. We recorded 24 hours ago. You predicted that Chud the Builder would eventually shoot and maybe kill someone, and that happened like 2 hours ago. How does that feel?
We got a guy in critical condition. I mean, listen, I'm not saying like I'm some like Chud anthropologist or something. I watched quite literally like 7 minutes of that guy's content. I was like, yeah, that's a fucking crazy person with a gun that's looking for fights. He is going to kill somebody. And he almost did today. And I just don't like, I heard, and I don't know, this is a Chud reported number. Chud claims he had made like $40,000 in a single week off of Kick. So it's like,
Jesus
Christ. Like incentivizing people to go do. Ken, we have a guest. Ken, have you heard of Chud the Builder yet? Is he on your radar?
I may have. What you're describing sounds like a distressingly large number of people online. Dude, I don't recognize him by that name.
He's the guy that's been going around for a couple of weeks now, where he screams like the N-word at black people on the streets, sort of goads people into like getting in his face, like being very aggressive and awful, carries a gun on him. Very obvious that this was going to happen.
Or bear spray. He likes to use that. Yeah.
And so,
cool.
yeah, we live in a great time.
The idea is people would pay him to do that.
Yeah, on Kick, he may apparently, again, like I don't know the numbers anyway, but he got in some guy's face and on stream was like, I made $40,000 last week on Kick doing this or something like that, which, like, the guy is, I don't necessarily trust that number, but I also know enough about Kick to know that it's not out of the realm of possibility for this to be true. He originally came on my radar because some other guy who says the N-word stole his hat, and a white guy stole his hat and called him the N-word, and they got into a fight and the gun was involved, and then the cops got involved, and then they let Chud go, and he was going to go kill this other guy to get his cowboy hat back. So his thing is he has a mustache and a cowboy hat. That's his whole thing, and he walks around saying slurs. And this guy, who's missing a tooth and also says N-word, takes his hat, turns into this altercation. Cops get involved, and then Chud, the FBI apparently was involved at some point. I don't know how or why, if that was true. And then Chud went on a side quest and shot somebody today that is unrelated to any of this. So
we have to nuke Kick. This is just the worst place of all time. Also, why is his name fucking Chud the Builder?
Chud the Builder.
Driving me crazy that I'm calling an actual guy, not as an insult, but his name is Chud. I shouldn't be saying that.
I mean, the guy is, I wish I'd had more time to prepare for a Chud centric episode, but like I said, I've only watched a couple minutes of his content. He came up as an ancillary thing with Mia Sato yesterday, and was like, yeah, this is a side thought. I don't know, but I do know that he's mentioned that he has like PTSD in the past, and he walks around armed and he's not well. And it's like, okay, well, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, what's going to happen. So
20 years later, we've kind of reversed bum fights, and now it's like they're paying them to torment like regular people.
Yeah,
basically. Dude. Yeah.
That's depressing.
Real dire state of affairs on like streaming platforms. There's like fine streamers. There are a handful that are like, okay, they're probably not evil. But it feels like most streaming is just like chicken fights but with humans, or like torturing yourself until you die for money on stream.
Yeah, there's like three kinds of streamers that you can be that are profitable now. That's like goading people into fights by saying the worst things that you can imagine. There is like the Johnny Somali type of like nuisance streamer where you go whatever, and then the other kind is my favorite, which is like the John 316 psychopath that is like going on hunger strike or something like that and live streaming it for 30 days.
just a weird, what a weird world, dude.
Yeah.
One day I hope not. I hope this guy's gone forever. I hope he gets like put in jail, like whatever. I hope we never have to think about Chud the Builder again, but who knows? But instead of talking about Chud the Builder, Ken, we have independent journalist Ken Klippenstein here today. How you doing?
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Hey, how do you feel knowing a little bit more about Chud the Builder than you did maybe 30 minutes ago?
Do you want those 5 minutes of your life back here?
The part of the story that's echoing in my mind is that there are multiple of them, and they're apparently competing with each other.
There's competing factions of white N-word sayers. Yeah.
Yeah, not ideal. So today you actually wrote a couple of pieces recently, just that fell on our radar, just because they're sort of within our world of what we tend to talk about recently. And it was like, why not just have Ken on to talk to us about these? I think the first one that we're going to talk about today is just like the reaction to the UFO, the UAP files that were released. Yeah.
If you'll remember, Ken, this actually goes back to 2003. Remember, we were going to have you on back then, and then when you were still with, I believe it was The Intercept, and your boss wouldn't let you go back when you would... was it what's his name? Grush?
Grush,
yeah. During that, so and that actually kind of came to a conclusion this week, didn't it? His trial got thrown out.
I haven't. I should probably know this since I'm involved in it, but I don't actually know. I've just seen all the other UAP stuff, which seemed like a lot of the previous iterations of the UAP stuff, which is to say a lot of grainy images and inconclusive stuff that doesn't really move the ball, but a lot of YouTube channels got a ton of views off of it, so that's pretty cool. Yay,
that's all that matters. That's stimulating the economy.
Honestly, yeah, that's a Keynesian UAP.
So sick.
That's all we get now.
Well, just as a reminder to anybody who wasn't paying attention back then, you had leaked. So he had some. Well, why don't you explain it, and then I'll kind of
this is all a pretty instructive story about that world, the UFO world. So I filed a FOIA request for this person, a former intelligence officer with the military named David Grush, who was alleging before Congress at the time, testifying before Congress, our tax dollars are paying for this stuff, telling them that he's found he had seen something like non-human biologics in air in spacecraft and all these kind of wild things that I understand to be, misleading, because I know a lot of the same people in the military. I'm a national security reporter. And insofar as people were taking that to mean that there were space aliens, that is not the case. There are aircraft that we find and that we reverse engineer and that have non-human biologics, but those can be drones. Non-human biologics can be any animal, any bacteria, any, you know what I mean? So the terms that were being used were leading, people were drawing all these wild conclusions from it, which were not what was being found. And as was described to me, there is a ridiculous amount of secrecy around these things. And so to the extent that people are pushing back against that, I think that's sensible. But the secrecy is, first of all, reflexive on the part of the national security community. And you see that with like the JFK files, still fighting release for stuff like how many decades, over a half century after the fact. So that is something that the government instinctively does, because there's not a lot of upside for them to have transparency unless the public's yelling at them. And then the downside is something embarrassing might come out. And that was what I found to be the case with a lot of the, I don't pretend to know the entire lore because there's so much going back. But just to give you one example, during the Cold War, there were, UFO sightings, and the Pentagon kind of played footsie with it because it was useful, because they were testing the U-2 spy plane and they didn't want people to say that the U-2 spy plane was being tested. And so, as long as they believe it's this other thing, we're fine with that. So that's one example. Another one would be the Roswell incident, which probably a lot of people know about. Another case of like extraordinary secrecy, because what was happening was they were using some kind of balloon type monitoring device to test for nuclear signatures in the air to see if the Russians, the USSR at the time, was testing their own nuclear program. And so when this balloon crashed, I think it was a rancher found it, and it looked unlike anything he'd seen. And in a lot of these cases, I think people are sincere. They're not necessarily lying. But, they jump to conclusions, and they wouldn't if the government could just say what it was. But because of just the ridiculous amounts of secrecy intrinsic to anything that is, in the military national security space, they don't give those answers. And what I just described to you, we only found out because that was declassified decades and decades and decades later, I think in the 90s or the 2000s. So, I don't know everything about this subject, but there's a lot of secrecy now around drones. And I think that explains a lot of these sightings because they cluster on military bases. They are things you see in the air or whatever, and it can't be unidentified. But there's the jump to extraterrestrials is what I don't think is sustained by the facts of what's going on. So that's kind of my crash course in the UAP phenomena.
Yeah. And so this David Grush says he's, among many people, by the way, at this point, have since made this kind of jump to extraterrestrial. Even my favorite one that I really wanted to have a more, I guess, instructive conversation on this angle of it, but I just kind of fell short because reasons. But the whole, they're not aliens, they're demons, right? It's like as a talking point that I think has been intentionally kind of shaping this discourse for some time that I think that we'll revisit later. But so he'd said this, and then you'd reported on it.
Oh yeah, and then I filed a FOIA request, and then it was this whole crazy backlash of kind of UFO believers that were saying, I had to have gotten this. The document showed that the guy had a drinking problem at the time, and his wife had called the police multiple. I mean, he had very serious, personal problems.
Totally.
And so I reported that because this person is being seen as like, some, end of story. He's the authority on this. We have to believe what he's saying. And I thought that complicated the picture a little bit. So I put it out, and then there was this wave of stories that was like, Ken must have been working with the CIA. He could only have been leaked his medical records from. I'm not kidding. This was like in.
No, I remember seeing it on Reddit
outlet.
a lot.
It was
like
wild.
Ken's on CIA. Come on, like.
And then I posted it. I said, "Here's the document. Like it's a FOIA request. I got it from FOIA." And and that shows you how serious that community is. That they could see the documents and just be like, "Nope, it was CIA."
Well, there were like
something that's persisted to this day.
Yeah. Big names were saying that you were like an intelligence plant too, as I recall, right? Who was it?
Like
was it Elon? Did Elon say this? Someone big
I don't
was
think
like,
Elon jumped in the UAP stuff, but like it's a much big. I saw all these accounts with the little UFO emojis. Like it's a whole subculture that I didn't realize existed.
I've never seen those. I've never ran into these people. I like the most I saw like with this most recent release was a lot of right-wing, obviously paid right-wing operatives on like Twitter and different social medias all posting like the same thing at the same time, at the same day that all of these dropped. But I didn't see it like beyond, like I haven't run across like genuine UFO UAP communities like this.
June can attest to this. I was going like a bloodhound looking through like as many accounts as I could find for like evidence that there was like a bot push for this. And I do certainly believe like with the Lauren Boebert thing was the one that was like, they're not aliens, they're demons. So I was going through it and I found like obvious bot accounts saying the same things. So there's like a obvious bot activity that you could tell was happening, but that's a little bit different than say, the obvious kind of push that you see sometimes for narratives with like bot farms and stuff like that. And to complicate things even further, just your average like MAGA Mima on Twitter now sounds remarkably more like a bot, unfortunately. So like I'm going through some of these and it's like, fuck man, like this is the sad truth is this is just like a real ass person. Like so
it's like do androids dream of electric sheep where the people become like machines and the machines become like people and you can't even what even is a person anymore.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard sometimes, especially when they start talking about the aliens being demons. It's like this. I didn't think that humans would think this shit, but they do.
No, they've expanded the franchise universe to include the Christian themes, which like makes it much more appealing, I think, to like religious people because they adopt the like biblical references and things. I think a lot of it is organic because it's a time of like public faith in institutions in the toilet as it should be. Mm-hmm. And because of that, there are these like cottage industries that profit off of it. And not just that, but like, vaccine weirdness and all kind of other things. So I think people like want something that speaks to that alienation. And unfortunately, our elected representatives are not doing much to provide them with anything. So this is what they get instead.
Yeah.
No, that is true. Yeah, that it really always does seem like a through line whenever Caleb and I talk about like different conspiracy communities, it's like, oh, it's just like decades and decades of loss of faith in everything around us. There's not like a shared reality anymore because of that. Everyone
I
believes what they want to believe.
In a way, when I talk to people like this, I can connect with them better than somebody who's like an enthusiast for like, I listen to NPR and I was reading the Abundance book and everything's great. Like that to me is more psychotic even than like disaffection makes more sense to me. I just don't necessarily go to the space aliens part.
An alien guy in a John 3:16 van makes way more sense to me than somebody who owns like Matty Iglesias is like 1 billion Americans or something. Like fuck off, you know?
Right.
It's stunning when people still believe in institutions, like, you know, with the Voting Rights Act being gutted. It's like, yeah, we just have to vote. It's like, we don't need anything. We just have to vote. It's like they're throwing out elections like right now. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
We just have to vote. I don't know. It's got to go a little bit deeper. That's not going to win over people, is to be told to just vote when their votes literally are being dumped in the trash right now.
Yeah, well, with the demon thing specifically, I think that there's like a structural argument to make. In that I was reading, and I wish I could remember. There's multiple authors, but the main author, her name, she's from Penn State, and if we continue on this, I'll of course cite it correctly. Was just like talking about like how these demon specific types of videos on short form TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Instagram, I believe, like get. I don't think this is intentionally. It's just because of the way that the algorithms reward this kind of insane content, like super high engagements. And it was just about this specific thing. And, you know, I think anybody with a functioning brain like can understand this is just like key jingling, right? But the fact that it was like this was sort of like a pressure valve, I think, for the Trump administration, is sort of secondary to the fact that this architecture existed. I mean, you know, JD Vance had said this before. He's talked about demons before. You know, I think you're totally spot on the money, guys, that this is somewhat organic. I mean, there is, I'm sure we'll talk about him later, but the Tucker Carlson thing, I don't know if you guys know, when he talked about being attacked by demons.
He was like scratched and like his bed was all wet from a demon, apparently.
Yeah. Then, like, dude, the funniest part about that is like nobody questioned it. And maybe I'm wrong about this, but my the way that I remember this is like, you know, people just like accepted that story. And then like separately in a different episode of his podcast later, he was talking about it again. And then he's just coyly mentioned the fact that he was in the bed with his dog at the time. And it's like, you didn't think that maybe the dog is who scratched you, buddy? Like, it's so awesome.
But there is like this, I mean, the right does believe in demons. So I guess that does make sense. But I guess it's just weird to me that there seems to be this like moment like that I've never seen before where like why does Laura Loomer want people to believe in alien demons? Does that serve any of her causes or the president's causes? Like what does that serve other than to just like drive people insane or like make people not believe in real things?
Well, you know, I was surprised to see Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader of the Democrats, put out a statement after the release saying, you know, we're making real progress here, something along those lines. And it's like, what? You're just going to give him that in the middle of this historically unpopular war? Gas prices are, you know, as high as they've been in, I think, like a decade. And you just give him that? Like, and I thought about it. There's a bit of history of this. So his predecessor, Senator Harry Reid of Nevada, who was also a leader of the Senate caucus, Democrats. He was also a UFO guy. I don't know about Schumer's path to Damascus and believing in it. But in the case of Harry Reid, turned out he had a top billionaire donor who had a space contracting company that like made money off of, you know, the public's and to some extent, like the public's engagement in this kind of stuff creates this atmosphere of, we have to be funding research into these things. And so there was a very clear like financial interest in that. I don't know if that's the case with Schumer as well, but you often find that with these things. It'd be interesting to see if Musk does that too, because of his, SpaceX company. But that's part of, and also it's another, you know, I talk to some people about this. I try not to be mean to like regular people that believe in it, as opposed to like people that are like really benefiting profit off of it. And they say things like, oh, you know, that we're going to reverse engineer the engines and then we can solve climate change. And I realize there's like real fear that they want to believe something is going to come and help. You know what I mean? So like, and if they had something like that was real about climate change, I assume they'd be interested in that, but that's not on offer. So they retreat to this stuff, I think.
Yeah, speaking of Chuck Schumer too, I mean, I think you're totally right. I think if I remember correctly, in Trump's first term, the way that they sort of sold the Space Force when Trump like announced that whole thing, it was like, but we gotta like, there might be threats in outer space. We might have to account for some like threats, and that I think has led to a lot of like SpaceX like deals and shit. I haven't looked too deep into that, but I did find it really fascinating. Chuck Schumer only posted one like tweet at all that day that the UAP files were released. And that was also the day that the Voting Rights Act was gutted. The same day. He didn't post about that at all. He only posted about the like UAP thing. So it's like not only
a better
just
symbol for why we are at where we're at. I mean, they don't give people anything, and then they go, "Why didn't you vote?" It's like, well, you've just given them the finger for the last 2 years. Like, what about what they're doing doesn't say, "Check out, stay home. This stuff sucks. You're not gonna." You know what I mean? Like. They don't give them anything.
Look at the UFOs; they're all real. Supreme Court, I don't know. I got no opinions about that one. Got nothing.
Well, their whole brand is supposed to be: we're not crazy like the other guys. Like we're rational, and we did our home. We like doing homework in school, and we fill out the paperwork. And it's like the same cracked out shit that Trump is saying. It's like, what? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, especially because like I didn't look too deep into what was released, but. I've never really, I believe aliens are probably out there somewhere, not weird little like green guys or like gray guys or whatever, but it's like, that just, it is likely. But like, I whenever I see these different file releases, because I feel like there's been a couple over the last decade or so, but I whenever I see video or photos, it's just like, I don't know, man, like this seems like bullshit.
It's
or just
so
like
underwhelming. It's just some like grainy image you'd see anywhere that you could It's like when you're a kid and you look at clouds like, oh, that one looks like a chicken, or that one looks like a horse.
Yeah.
Well, there was also that
very underwhelming.
I don't know if you guys saw the one that was it's like the two guys holding up the carcass of this little gray guy or whatever. It turns out that actually came from a 1950s German comedy magazine, and it was their April Fool's Day prank. And that was like circulating. It's like from the UFO files. Now, I mean, to be clear, it's not unheard of for that type of thing to be in declassified files. Like if you looked at like the gateway process or any other of those kind of like mind control or just out there stuff that they declassify here and there, there's like real reasons for that stuff to be in there because it's like a pop culture reference that somebody just kind of includes, and it's not in those files to be taken seriously.
Right. This is something people don't understand. Like I do a lot of Freedom of Information Act or FOIA work, and probably the most common thing you get back is just like the intelligence services are reading the same news that everybody else is. Yeah. And so you'll literally just like, I'll get my stories like sent back to me, and because it'll be in their like news roundup or whatever that they use to stay informed or whatever. So yeah, just because it has government stamped on it doesn't mean that it's like necessarily some super secret and, deeply authentic thing. So much of it is just based on the same stuff that everybody else is reading.
Yeah, I mean, like in the gateway process stuff, I mean, it was like the Soviet version of like Weekly World News was in there, and it's like they're having people, I guess, pay attention to this stuff just for reasons. The Cold War, I don't know, but like nobody ever really believed in it. So like that's the thing for the Trump administration to like release this stuff kind of in pieces and chunks sans context is like. It's just it's very disingenuous, and it is, except for, I suppose, like we'd said, the economic stimulus aspect of it for like the dumbest podcasters in America. But like,
I love that. Yeah. I never thought of it that way.
I'm sure Joe Rogan and like that sphere is going nuts. But yeah, I don't know.
Think
and
of like just like Ford towns, but of like streamers. Like, he put my family through school.
Yeah, dude.
This is so dark. I can't believe this is our system. Because he literally is that. Look at the White House press corps, and I'm not somebody that is like pro clutching about that. The normal outlets aren't allowed in. It's like I didn't learn much from them anyway, so I don't really give a shit if there's like a clown show in there. But they're all like influencers that are. It's like just like what you're saying, that are like paying for. He's like bankrolling them by
Tim
giving
Pool's
them content
in there.
Yeah, dude.
Tim Pool's like, what's your favorite fabric to wear on your clothing, sir? Hello, sir. Tell me about. Do you like beanies? Like that's like the type of literally that's like the kind of shit they get up to in there now.
Right. Right. And they produce a lot of media, like, I focus on national security stuff. So it's like, I always see the military, they're putting out all of this like drone camera. I mean, a lot of it's like snuff footage of just like killing people, blowing things up.
Yeah.
But now that you say it, it's like, yeah, they put out a ton more content. That's probably like really appeals to that type of creator.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, like, it's Tim Pool or someone else and is probably the one that requested that the UFO files come out in 9 pieces or however they're doing it.
Yeah. Why is that? Was there like, because I feel like whenever Trump has released anything this administration, it's like, oh, it's part 1. Like they're doing a fucking like, oh, there's a 15-minute YouTube cutoff still these days.
Well,
it's like, we'll get to that one then in the next episode.
When you take an SSRI, sometimes there's instant release and sometimes there's extended release.
That's what they're doing here. Yeah. It's like, yeah, well, is it like, for me, it always feels like, I mean, I'm always generally fairly skeptical of like government releasing things like this and being like, I don't know, guys, it's kind of weird, isn't it? But like I feel like in particular Trump's administration has used this tactic fairly often so far. Like with the Epstein files, it's like, oh, this is just part 1 of the Epstein files, we're gonna get part 2 eventually. And I think they tried to do that with the JFK files. I don't even know if they released that one. They're doing it with these. It's like it feels like it's sort of like a way for them to be like, okay, the news isn't looking so good for us right now, let's reset. Well, and something Trump has been pretty like canny about this. When he was campaigning, he would meet with like the Bitcoin people and the crypto people. Do you remember they released Ross Ulbright? And maybe that's not a perfect parallel, but like you mentioned the JFK files. Like that's a constituency of like people in their 60s that are interested in that. And like, I don't think it's necessarily bad. Like, I don't think you're going to find all the stuff in it that they say you're going to. But like there are little tranches of people that are interested in that stuff. And I think it's appealing to a politician because you don't have to like levy taxes against corporations or kind of really do stuff that's going to irk powerful people in order to give them or like do the theater of releasing things or whatever. So it's very appealing. And to some extent, I wonder why the Democrats didn't do that because I can't really think of an equivalent. Trump was going on like all kinds of, or like Vance, he would go on the most bizarre podcasts. When he was running back in Senate. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That evince like a knowledge of like, oh, these are the different influencers out there. How do I reach them? And it's like, you can imagine a more innocuous version of that. But instead we have, the Trump world doing that very aggressively. And it seems like the Democrats don't really do it at all.
Yeah, I mean, even still, I feel like after the election, there was sort of a discussion about like, okay, we need to find our Joe Rogan of the left, which like if following that discussion, it was very clear that Democratic politicians don't really understand like why Joe Rogan works the way he does, or like what they
do
even
they think
mean
he was
by
made
that.
in a vat by the GOP? Yeah. He had a show.
Exactly.
Like you don't have to like him, but like he clearly has his own weird thing, whatever that thing is, and like maybe he's too close to the Republicans now, but that's not how he came up.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing, but he endorsed Bernie 2 times. Right. Man. Like,
yeah, totally. It's just bizarre. And they only want to go on these like controlled shows, which is hilarious because they're eating shit on those even. Like I saw Cory Booker went on a show that was like, I guess she seems more like feisty now, but like in the past she'd been kind of,
Jennifer Welch, right?
Yeah,
I think I
and
saw
there was
this.
like really tough questions and like credits her for that. But it was like funny that Booker clearly thought that this was like the Democratic Party 10 years ago, where they were going to let him off the hook.
Highly recommend if anyone's not listened to that interview by Jennifer Welch. I think it's called "I've Had It" podcast, or I think it's a YouTube show. I don't entirely understand. No, it's an unbelievable interview.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
And it was just this reminder. It's like, oh, that's why Democrats don't go on any shows. No, they literally trounced. They go on the AstroTurf. They have these fake podcasts that have like no followers, and the whole thing, it's a very North Korea vibe where it's like, are the Democrats doing too much good stuff, or are they doing the right amount of good stuff? And they go, and literally you can go on I got obsessed with this for a while. Shows I had never heard of, and they get like, a few hundred views or whatever, and so they stay inside of this hermetically sealed thing, and I think they genuinely get out of touch because of that, because they're not subjected to the like trial by fire of like going on a negative show that maybe you'll get a little bit embarrassed, but you'll get a read on what people are angry about or what they care about, and instead they go in this it's almost like you're bowling with the like bumpers up kind of thing.
Yeah, and it always it seems to fuck them over all the time.
Yeah, well they're not really willing to be honest with themselves because they had that whatever the autopsy of the election autopsy that said they were going to release it, and they were like, well, we can't release that because reasons. So I don't know, but it is kind of funny that you mentioned these kind of like fake shows that's been making the rounds on Blue Skies, the Washington Post the opinion YouTube channel has their own series of shows or whatever. And there's ones that have been up for like 6 months and they have like 80 views on them and stuff like that.
I work in the profession and I'm like learning this now.
Yeah,
I saw someone.
I just found out about it, and I saw it because they were talking about Katie Wilson, the mayor of Seattle, and I was like, I'm just trying to be funny. I was like, I hate to talk shit on a small creator, but shut the fuck up or whatever, right? Because they were just being dumb about stuff, and then everyone's like, I don't know if you know this, but that's actually the Washington Post, and it's like, come on, that was my joke.
Yeah, this the one you're talking about. There's 189 videos. It's called a Make It Make Sense. They have 500 subscribers. Oh my! And
so
it's the Washington
awesome,
Post.
Yeah,
they tagged the Washington Post in all of them.
I bet that before that 500 number was probably less than half that 48 hours ago, because people are just making fun of it now.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. But it's like, I mean, this has been the trend, and like, I hope it gets better. But there seems to be like especially in like the more like liberal Democratic Party aligned class of like media and politicians, to just like, they just like don't really understand like social media or like modern media.
I'm looking at this now. My YouTube channel has like 10 posts on it because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think a single one of them has as few of posts as I can see in like as few of views as I can see in any of these. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't even understand how this is possible.
And again, I just have to be crystal clear here that like the majority of these had to have come in the last day or two, because people are just hate watching and making fun of it now.
Oh my god,
dude! There's one with 34 views.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
But yeah, no, there is. I am always endlessly fascinated.
Do you guys see where CNN they put Jake Tapper with a podcaster mic? And they tried they had to put like sports memorabilia behind him. It's a cargo cult mentality of where they think that indie media people succeed because they can't afford a nice setup. It's like, no, they can't afford a nice setup. And then they're authentic because they haven't been like brainwashed into the corporate thing. The shitty like gear is just like a symptom of that. It's not what causes you to be interesting.
Yeah. It's like, like Tucker Carlson has like the same sort of setup. It's like sort of like the cigar, like, the whiskey, the whole thing.
His thing looks like Famous Dave.
Yeah.
It does. With the fake antlers.
But no, it's like, they're like, yeah, if we change the set design, surely that'll give us 1,000 extra views. It's like, dude.
The contempt for the audience. Like these idiot, like these fucking pigs will eat this stuff up because all they care. It's like, you don't think for a second. You could literally just ask them, be like, hey, what are you interested in? And you would glean so much more information.
And to speak on that, like especially going back to like the Jennifer Welsh and her show, it's like I had never heard of her before this second Trump administration, and she has been like popping off recently because she is like finally like she has always been like a liberal, she says, in the past, like, a very standard line liberal, but then she looked around and she was like, these are the people that are supposedly fighting for me. These are the Democratic politicians that are supposed to be like saving the country. And she's like sort of did that like left wing sort of I guess maybe more progressive turn, but like she's been rewarded, I think, with realizing like what the fuck is happening in this country. Why are people like Chuck Schumer posting about the UFO files and not like anything to do with the Voting Rights Act? Like, what is happening here? Like, not that posting is going to change the world, but it's like, you're the fucking Senate minority leader, dude.
Right.
like, I don't know, read the room maybe.
Right. Well, what else do they do? Because all they would do is whine about we don't have the votes or whatever. It's like, okay, well, then it sounds like you have a lot of time to go and try to persuade people. And it's like, oh, we're also not doing that. So it's like, well, what are you doing then?
We're going on a podcast that gets 19 views on YouTube.
So awesome. Can we is it okay? Anything else about UAPs? Because I want to learn. I don't know anything about this. You wrote about Mr. Gorka and Tucker Carlson.
Oh yeah.
He's come up a couple times.
Do you want me to just go or specific question?
Yeah, hit me with it. I just read the headline like right before we started recording. It's like, okay, we got to talk about this.
Okay, so the Trump administration just unveiled what's called the National Counter-Terrorism Strategy, which is like the interagency for like the entirety of the federal government. This is like our governing vision for how we're going to fight terrorism. They only release this, I think, once a decade or so. So it's a significant document. And Sebastian Gorka is its brainchild. He authored it. He's what's called a senior director for counterterrorism in the White House. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic to say that he's a pretty eccentric figure. He has a British accent. I think he's of Hungarian descent, grew up in the UK, came here. And, if you watch his interviews, he's very theatrical about how he talks about everything. He's always describing, say target assassinations. And this is real. He'll say, Soleimani is now a red mist or something like, just like very tough guy, like Tom Clancy kind of stuff, So he wrote this thing and it was extraordinary because I've read the past ones and this for the first time listed a domestic American political group, essentially their political opposition, as one of the 3 priority targets of the counterterrorism strategy. So the 3 are, the first one was narco terrorists. The second one was Islamist extremists, groups like ISIS and Al Qaeda. And the third one, it literally says this. It says the radical left, and it mentions radical transgender ideology.
Yeah,
and
that's how I saw this and found out about this, was that being radically pro transgender ideology, it puts you apparently in the target of the government under their new counter-terrorist guidelines.
And nowhere in this like 20-page document is that defined. I have no idea what that means. Throughout it is references to NSPM 7. That's the Presidential National Security Memoranda that redefines terrorism along a list of so-called indicators of future acts of terrorism. And these indicators themselves are really extraordinary. Like I've never seen anything like it. It's stuff like anti-Christian thought, anti-capitalist sentiment, anti-traditional family value. That document also mentions transgender extremism. So this is really a formalization of that kind of school of thought. And I've reported on this a lot over the last several months. And what I learned was the origin point for it was really the Charlie Kirk assassination, which Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent literally described as a 9/11 moment for us. It's like their 9/11. And so they responded to it in the same way that the Bush administration responded to 9/11, which is to create an enemy and declare war on an idea. But this time it's not Al Qaeda. What's called the global war on terror has largely been drawn down, not entirely, but it's not the overweening focus anymore. So now the focus has come home, and it is on these domestic targets, these the so-called radical left. Which another thing that has surprised me in the course of my reporting is realizing the admin really believes there are shadowy financiers and there's some big organized group. I had a story a few months ago about an intelligence report where they were convinced they'd found the founder of Antifa in a safe house.
Yeah,
and
what was that? Who was the founder?
Who really
was that
this
there?
stuff? It was like some young man. I think he was like, I talked to him. He was like 28 years old, nice guy. He did an interview with local news. He's like, you can come check out my apartment. Like, see, it's just normal. It was like a bookshelf and like, it was like just a regular guy's place.
Their evidence was that he had like leader of Antifa in his bio on Twitter like 10 years ago. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
And intelligence officers not big on irony or humor.
No.
So you see this often actually, where they'll see joke things. They'll be like, oh my God, this is, this is the sign of like, here's the extremist group we need to monitor kind of thing. Yeah. So that's what the National Counterterrorism Strategy sort of formalizes. And so he released it. There was barely any reporting. There's literal video of Gorka cackling, saying it's, quote, delicious how little the media has reported on this.
Jesus
negatively.
Christ.
And he's right. There was hardly any. My report was like, I think maybe the only one that like dove into it and wasn't just kind of like, here's a normal thing. Everybody don't worry about it. So he's right about that. And he's kind of been stunting on everyone in these interviews. But in one of the interviews I saw, he made a bit of a mistake because this was the editor-in-chief of Breitbart asked him, he said, okay, so you've got all this left-wing stuff, but what about the right-wing? Is there right-wing extremists? It's kind of a smart question because it's like, like, couldn't this hurt us kind of thing? And his answer to that question was, he says, well, when you look at people like Tucker Carlson or Nick Fuentes, are they even really the right wing?
Oh my God. So is he trying to say they're like weirdly sort of on the left, or like left-wing actors now, or have always been? Is that what that implies?
In his example, he said, well, for instance, Tucker Carlson was praising Sharia law. And I went and watched the interview because, I mean, knowing anything about Tucker Carlson, I took a wild guess that he was not praising Sharia law. So I visited the site where he had the segment where he said it. And he was doing one of those things where it's like, there are parts of New York City that look like they could benefit from Sharia law, like trying to be an edgelord kind of thing.
Yeah.
Serious thing. But by saying that, Gorka is trying to say like, oh, actually, maybe he belongs in this other threat category and he's not a conservative. So it was like a literal, like no true Scotsman thing where it was like, okay, yeah, maybe we treat these guys like domestic terrorists, but they're not really conservatives if you think about it. And it's like anybody looking at it is like, what are you talking about? That's exactly what they are.
They're absolutely like, sure, they're like critical of Trump currently, but it's all like for a greater purpose of they want to inherit what will become of the Republican Party. That's like obviously what's happening here.
Right. It was a big wake up moment, I think, for a lot of folks on the right. Alex Jones had a very funny impression he did of him in a segment about it. And, all kinds of people on the right have come out of this. And this is like, I've been trying to tell people, it's like NSPM 7, yes, it overtly talks about the left, but these things are invariably turned on whoever the, admin in charge feels like, and they're not going to give you like the exhaustive list in the document of like what they're going to do. So I think this was a kind of rude awakening for a lot of people on the right, because there was a huge backlash to it. And my sincere hope is that they start to look at NSPM 7 and realize that even if you're not someone on the left, this is something that can end up hurting you.
Absolutely.
You had written about specifically something Gorka had said that kind of gave me a little bit of a chill up my spine, was like the pre-crime stuff. They're going to cripple the crimes before they're even committed. What does that look like in practice, or what do they actually mean? So
throughout the counterterrorism strategy, it keeps talking about preempting attacks. And again, this comes right out of Charlie Kirk. In fact, the national strategy mentions the Kirk killing, and the idea is we want to prevent attacks before they've happened, which in some sense is the basis of counterterrorism. Counterterrorism is kind of a propaganda word. I try to avoid it where I can, because it is a kind of fancy sounding euphemistic term for that we are going to allow law enforcement to conduct investigations without a crime having been committed. And the theory behind that is supposed to be like, 9/11 was so horrific, or maybe some nuclear attack or something could be so awful that we have to suspend the usual rules that we have, where you have to find evidence that a crime is committed, you bring it to a judge, the judge says, okay, that's sufficient, now we're going to have a jury. Counterterrorism allows you to do away with all that, and you can go, how do you catch crimes then that haven't yet happened? You've got to look for indicators. That's like the euphemistic term they have. What are indicators? They're basically speech. It's those things I was talking about before. Anti-Christian, anti-capitalist sentiment, anti-traditional family. And that's what this strategy formalizes.
It's speech, and it's sort of, I feel like what has led to this massive surveillance state that we live under right now. This sort of like counter-terrorist sort of idea of like, okay, well, if they're making like a joke somewhere, that's free speech, but now we have to put them on a list and keep track of them because of they said something about Antifa. Now like they're going to be put on this list, and conveniently NSPM
7, not
NSPM 7. No,
it took me a while to
NSPM 7. Wow, look who's on here. Antifa. Look at that. That's really convenient.
Yeah, we really entered a state of exception after 9/11, and we never left it. I mean, no one would say that they have the capacity to carry out something like what happened on 9/11. If you're someone that thinks that justifies the kind of response that we've seen. But nobody said, oh, okay, well, let's, get rid of some of these authorities then. They've kept them all, and the institutions are happy to keep them all. They don't want to give up any power, and nobody seems to much, including figures on, this sort of radical or progressive left that say a lot of stuff that I think is interesting. This whole thing has just been completely dropped. Like even Mamdani, who I think is a very competent guy and seems to be doing a lot of interesting things. He very clearly chose to avoid a fight with Tish James and the NYPD. And to some extent, I understand that, because it is a very powerful adversary to take up, but nobody is willing to take it up anywhere. And so we end up having this massive system that we haven't modified to make it a little bit more sensible for what the actual threat picture looks like now.
Everyone's really scared to take on like this massive surveillance and like military state that we have. And I mean, like, to go back on to like the vagueness of what any of this even is, it's like pro-trans agenda. It's like I for me as a trans person, I'm just going to assume being on estrogen puts me in that category. I have to imagine. Because I mean, tying it back to like the Charlie Kirk assassination, they really tried to instill that media narrative about it being the fault of like transgender ideology. There was like the bullets had like Discord memes on it, so that means there was a radical trans aspect to this, and then that like didn't really land because it was just like video game memes or whatever. And then it's like, oh, but the shooter lived with a trans person, a trans woman. That's why she actually pulled the trigger. And it's like they're really trying to do this like scapegoat sort of thing to sort of I can't even imagine what this will lead to. Obviously, it's just speculation. But as a trans person myself, like, it's sort of horrifying to just realize that the government might, and it might have already happened, it might be happening currently, just making a list of every trans person they know and monitoring everything we're doing. That's like a horrifying thought to have. And it's like, it's on us right now, but it's like, it's not just going to be us or people that have made jokes about Antifa or anything. Because like another thing I've been thinking about a lot recently is that, you know, in the past, I used to make a lot more jokes online in the past, especially before I like really blew up. I was just like a sort of shit poster. And I've made like certain jokes, like one in particular, about like weight replacement theory, because obviously not real. Weight replacement theory is not like a thing. And I've made like jokes about that in the past, like, oh, thank God for weight replacement theories working, you know, demographic shift, who knows? But like right wingers later on would find those posts, like Captive Dreamer in particular, who's followed by JD Vance, screenshots like my jokes, but then is like, look at this very serious thing that this person said, tags FBI, look into this person, they're a threat, this is, and it's like, you are doing some like context collapse from a joke to a very serious thing that I'm obviously not like the entire context is that it's not real. And that's why it's a joke. And it's like that seems to be the strategy, taking this all the way back to what you said about Gorka, like about how Tucker Carlson, not to give him any credit, but like said something about Sharia law, like, oh, wow, there's some good things here. It's like they don't really care about context. That's unimportant to their grander like agenda here. The context will not clear things up because it doesn't matter to them.
Yeah, what you're describing is really important. And I think that is the main risk of all of this right now. I don't want to give the impression that there'd be black helicopters and people kicking in doors. And
I also don't think that's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Trans folks are going to get disappeared. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But the point we're at now is, people self-censor. In First Amendment world, it's called having a chilling effect on speech. It's not like they've outlawed speech per se. It's that nobody really knows quite where the line is. Everyone's a little bit nervous and they're going to be like, well, maybe I won't make that joke. And if you imagine the effect that's had like writ large across the country, like that's really negative because, and that's the problem with the whole national security approach, because it's secret. We don't know, for example, the terrorist watch list is not actually public. You can't find out who's on it. You can't even know why you're on it if you're on it. And that leads people to rationally make the determination, okay, well, I don't even know what that is. Maybe I should just avoid this or whatever. And that's a threat we're seeing. I've reported on this. There are people that I interviewed, one young man that got a visit from the FBI, no crime alleged, after going to an anti-ICE protest. Oh my God. And then he told me, he said, I want to go to No Kings protest, but what if that happens again? Maybe I'll just stay home. And that's really bad. You know, it's not black helicopters, but it's like, that's really bad. And that could lead to black helicopters someday if everybody just doesn't get involved in anything and some point in the future. But that's kind of where that's kind of what we're looking at now. It's just so inimical to free expression, and doesn't actually make this situation any safer, because that's not a good way to understand the threat. Like as being, you see this again and again with shootings, like with the Mangione shooting. There was this race to be like, oh, was he a Democrat? Was he this or that? And it's like, none of that is going to be able to help you figure out how the next one will happen, because that's not why that happened.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, and I'm not saying there's necessarily an easy way to understand why some of these things happen, but it relates to what we're saying at the top, which is people's deep sense of alienation and belief that the system doesn't work for them and isn't responsive. And I think if we're honest, they're kind of right about that. Like, that doesn't mean you want to go and hurt somebody, but like, we should probably try to make that not true, where the system isn't responsive. That could be one way to respond to this that might improve things.
Yeah, it's not good when a majority of people don't believe in the system we live under. That's just bad fucking news. Yeah. And like, I mean, to talk about like self-censorship, I've absolutely in the last like 2 years been like,
too.
You know, I am not going to post this. I am just going to not say anything about a specific topic. I'm not going to make this thought or post a joke, post my thought here, even post like a photo of like me or my friends, because it's like, this will get people in the crossfire because people are watching me. I know fucking maniacs are watching everything I do. And it's like this sort of like state of like constant self-censorship is just not a good place to be, even if it's not hard censorship. It's soft
NBC,
censorship.
They had some professor on NBC talking about like, oh, NSPM7, well, you know, it's not really legal and it won't survive the courts. And so you have people getting arrested and detained from protests for like a day or two, and then they're ultimately released. The charges are dropped. I think that happened with Kat Abu-Ghazaleh and the protesters around there.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, it's like, wait a second. Nobody wants to go to jail for like a day or like have it splashed across Google that you were arrested for terrorism, even if the jury and the courts don't hold it up, that's still really bad and is going to make it so people don't want to go out and express themselves.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the threat is like, you know, it's like it's not some movie or something. I mean, it could get there at some point, but we have to deal with what's in front of us. And just because it's not a movie doesn't mean it's not something worth being concerned about.
No, totally agree. It's sort of a weird time to have, I guess, some free speech, if we even do anymore. I honestly don't really think we do, frankly. Like, we do insofar as we can say things, but like there was probably a lot more consequences for saying speech or even like going to protests than there was a decade ago. I think. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird time.
Yeah. Are there any bright spots, anything to look forward to that, you know, obviously the fact that this is very illegal is somewhat hopeful that we can fix this in the future, but is there anything that we should be looking towards?
I think what happened in Minneapolis is really inspiring. I mean, the protesters succeeded at pushing out all kinds of customs and border protection assets that had been sent there to essentially put down the protests and support the ICE operations going on. And it sounds like Stephen Miller, the Trump advisor, the very hardline on immigration Trump advisor, has basically been sidelined. The protesters, I mean, I have reported on that extensively from all sides, talking to senior ICE people, senior Border Patrol people who were sympathetic to things. And my strong sense is that the protesters really were the reason that happened.
Shout out Minneapolis. Holy shit.
And all the demonstrations in major cities across the country where there were these deployments. So to me, that's the like working picture of like how the public can get engaged and like actually get stuff that doesn't involve depending on these sad leaders that don't do anything.
Yeah. Go on. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. They got, Bovino got, I mean, it's really extraordinary. It was like the first kind of major chastening of the Trump administration. Trump usually doesn't like to he doesn't like to look like he's been defeated or something.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then the Secretary of Homeland Security is out. I mean, this is really extraordinary that they were able to do all of that over the course of like what? A few months?
2 weeks.
Yeah. A few weeks.
Like the biggest part of it, like in the media, was like less than a month amount of time. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of the last time a Secretary of Homeland Security has been like pushed out over protests. Like, that's a very powerful cabinet level position, and somebody who came in like guns blazing and they were not making any apologies for anything. And then within a week she's out. I mean, that's really crazy.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I feel like the media often reduces this stuff to like Washington Bay, where it's like, oh, Stephen Miller got mad at so-and-so, and they'd like to turn it into some soap opera of like powerful people, and they write out the public. They don't credit the protesters.
Yeah.
For what happened.
Yeah, no, I mean, the protests that happened there were frankly inspiring. And then, of course, I mean, sadly, I think a major part of why there was so much backlash was the Renee Good and Alex Preddy murders from the ICE agents. I think that was sort of like the impetus for a lot of the movement that was sort of in the protesters' favor against ICE and the administration. But like I think that is like a really like really good thing to bring up. It's like, you know, even though like the Trump administration have it like announcing these counter-terrorist new guidelines, it's like really fucking dire. But we do have to remember, like, we can fucking like stand, like there is no reason to think that this will actually take us all out. I guess like we can obviously stand up together and like protest and like stand strong side by side and support each other and like defend communities, and like there will be backlash. There will be like I know there's a lot of trans people listening to this. Like it's a little scary. It's really, really scary, but I don't think there is an end of hope. I guess is what I'm trying to say. There is no reason I see is that there is like an end of hope here.
Yeah, to point to one other example, things are happening that were not supposed to be possible. We mentioned Mamdani, who, you know, we're all used to now, but when he was first running, it was like inconceivable that this person could take the position that he did on Israel and be viable in New York City. And then the Democratic leadership's choice for the nominee for the Senate campaign in Maine, Janet Mills, 78-year-old, just like embodiment of everything that's wrong with the Democratic Party, crashes and loses by like like just to a guy who has no political experience. And she had been a governor. I don't think there's any precedent for that kind of like a mismatch at that level, like of the U.S. Senate. Where
She's
there's so much
currently
money.
the governor, which is the even crazier part. Right. She is currently, not even is
unheard of. Right. Yeah. And then now Plattner's polling very well against his Republican nominee opponent, who's like 73 or 74, and also a representative, also the embodiment of a lot of problems in Congress. Which also wasn't supposed to be. I mean, it's like all this stuff keeps happening that is like, whoa, I didn't think, you know? So it's like, I think this is the like positive side of that collapse in faith in institutions.
I think so.
Is like, we can do something radically different than we could have 10 years ago.
There is a deep distrust in all leadership across the board. And thankfully, that means there's a deep distrust in the Democratic Party, and you can chip away at that all across the board. And I think, you know, I don't want to make any predictions too early, but I think we'll see that happen in the Michigan primary with Abdul al-Said. I think we're going to see him win that out. And again, it comes down to like this like very progressive left anti-Israel, pro-Palestine agenda that seems to be really resonating with people across the board in this country, just because people are fucking sick and tired of all of this bullshit and like death and destruction and murder, and cracking down on all of us while we get fucking nothing.
Yeah, I almost have an opposite reaction. I mean, there is a lot of ugliness, but like I see it as a big opportunity. It's like this ghost ship is sitting there and we can just like board it, or it's like the table has been there's cleared, and that sucks. There's no food to eat, but we can like put whatever we want on it now. Yeah. And that's kind of cool. I mean, I've never seen that in my life. Usually it was like, how many elections where it's just like, all right, here's what we're going with. And here, you know what I mean? Like there were never any outs. I don't know. It's like,
I mean, my entire life, different. Absolutely. It's just been that. It's like, well, we tried our best. we had our fun. Now it's Hillary Clinton.
Meanwhile, every like important bill seems to fail by one vote somehow.
Oh God, that fucking pisses me off too. Every single time. I always appreciate that you
today,
point that
actually.
out.
I mean, that was
with
the
John
Senate,
Fetterman.
so it's a little different, but yeah.
But John Fetterman was the guy.
He would have tied it, but still, yeah.
But no, I think we'll see a realignment against the current status quo. I hope, dear God, I hope. I love to have hopium a lot, and I'm always very optimistic. But I do think, from what we're seeing, good signs are in front of us, despite all of the like scary stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how much hopium you will find there. But there is infrastructure through which you can build the narrative for your own hopium at Ken's website. Ken, what would you like to have? Where would you like to plug?
KenKlippenstein.com is where you find my newsletter where I write about all the stuff that we've been talking about. And you can hear it sooner than than when when the rest of the media picks it up. I have this nasty habit of like being a little bit early to stuff.
You get good scoops. I don't know.
That's because you're an intelligence plant. I saw that Twitter space you were in. Ken, thank you so much, man. Pleasure as always to have you. We hope to have you back for the next round of each of the subsequent 9 UFO file releases. We'll have you back for. I'm looking forward to each one of them.
I'll see if I can get an interview with any little green people.
Yeah. That would be, if anyone's going to, it's probably going to be you. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like resentful of that. People are like, oh, he's just a hater of UFOs. I would love for that to be true.
Literally same.
That would be so cool. Yeah. It's just like that doesn't make it true. Do you know what I mean?
We're too skeptical to just believe bullshit that's in front of us for whatever purposes. Yeah.
Well, it's just like I remember when this was really kind of taking off for the first time. This idea of disclosure that came on like the mainstream media. It was still in the acute phase, but somewhat when businesses were starting to open back up. Because I remember I was at work talking to my boss, and he said some article about like UAPs or whatever, and both of us kind of looked at each other, and it's like, I don't give a fuck. I have bigger problems. You know what I mean? Like things are just bad right now.
Yeah, like there's war. We started a war in Iran. Yeah. Energy crisis. Like it
is funny. Yeah, no, it is funny to picture Chuck Schumer, the New York senator, just like your completely average New York State voter, being like, "Hey, man, did you see what your rep just did? He's cheering. You got the UFO disclosure. Pretty cool, huh?" Just picture the reaction.
Yay, we did it.
Deadpan crowd shot.
June, do we have anything we need to plug? We have any housekeeping?
I don't think anything new. No, not for me.
I did put up some new merch on the website. There's a couple posters and a new shirt. So yeah. So if you haven't, somehow if you missed it, if you've been not listening for a while, we did launch the new website. There's a merch store at killercomputer.com. There's some cool stuff on there. Thank you to everybody who's purchased stuff. Let me know how it's fitting. Let me know how it's looking. If there's any issues, just email us.
I think we're going to be getting new games on the website fairly soon too. So if you enjoy the 2 games that we have on there currently, there will be more very soon. Yeah,
we're going to do like well, I'm signing you up for this live now, June, but we're going to do like I think a sort of stream thing where we play the new games when they launch on there.
Fuck yeah, let's do it.
And then obviously if you're on the leaderboard, we'll send you, or if you're, I don't know how we're going to do it because there's going to be like 4 or 5 games. So like we'll figure out if you're like anybody who wins per month, we'll put you in a raffle to get something. We'll figure something out. We're sending out prizes. Yeah. So
you guys have quite an offering. I have a comment section on the newsletter. Not much else.
Where people can, well, you know what? If you pay Ken a couple bucks a month, you can yell at him. I did see Ken, by the way. It was really funny that
what half of it is. Half of the comment section.
I love how you it's inspiring to me as a creator of sorts, like how at times you're combative, but there's a sort of Bushido-esque code of honor that you have with your commenters, where there was that one guy that's like, I bet you'd never say this about Biden. And then you got him with an old whatever tweet of yours or post.
Some obscure one where I like fucking called him like a gerontocrat in like 2023. God, that really got on my skin. It's like, dude.
You of all people
so funny. It was like, do you know who you're replying to?
Yeah, like he's like the guy who like you're the ageism guy. How else do I say this? Right?
It's like I get two reactions. One is, why are you such a jerk and so ageist? The other one is, where were you talking about Joe Biden? It's like
so fucking
there
funny
the whole time.
But you did quote tweet him because he ponied up and he subscribed.
No credit to this guy. Yeah. No, he was like, I stand corrected, and he became a subscriber.
Damn.
Yeah, it's honestly, you never see somebody own up. I kind of respect it.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much, and Ken, pleasure as always.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Take care.
the computer.